Cleo, not Chloe. Cleo. Okay, so my question to you, Cleo, is that, because we've been talking, my next question to you, and thanks for your patience, by the way, is what mechanisms should we use idealistically, according to yourself, to formulate our morality in terms of what is right and what is wrong?
I do think that some of the mechanisms are intrinsic. So we are born with knowing that it is wrong to kill, for example. Knowing we have that survival instinct, do we not? So as a first basis, I would say we are born with some basic moral instincts. For me as a woman, maternity, to reproduce and take care of a child, take care of my husband, so on and so forth. But when it comes to nurture, we then enter the social contract that we talked about, and then it is about how we are raised and the kind of who are the first people who teach us what is right and what is wrong. Unlike you picking it up from a book, the book being the Quran, and it giving you everything that is right and wrong, I choose what is right and wrong from the people that I trust, from religion, from philosophy, and I make that up. Yeah, I think that would be.
Why is it intrinsically correct if we make it up and do what you've said? How do we choose? How do you know intrinsically it's correct? It's morally right. How do you know?
First, from nature, as we said, and then secondly, from nurture. You grow up, you see how is.
But Cleo, what makes that correct and right and morally correct and right?
Morally
just because you're taught in it, just because you're taught it in a cradle, what I'm getting at is, I'm not asking you what the influences are or where the influences come from. Right now, today, if you were to use a list of boxes to tick off, what would you tick off to say, right, this is what we're going to utilize to determine, like in our laws and how we operate in society, these are the mechanisms we're going to use to determine what is correct, what is morally right, and what is morally wrong.
This is something that is learned. It is in the subconscious.
But I can learn to eat flesh, man. I can learn from a child, from a cradle. I can learn that eating a man's intestine is good and nutritious. Just because I learn it from the cradle doesn't necessarily mean it's correct. It's right. Do you understand my point? So what I'm saying is, what mechanisms do we use to determine what is correct, what is moralistically right?
There is a biological predisposition which teaches you not to eat a fellow human. You know inherently that you should not eat a fellow human.
But many humans,
for survival, for reasons of survival.
Look, people eat, like in Papua New Guinea, not anymore, and certain other areas, the Amazon. People did it. People thought it was correct.
They did it.
Now, some say from a spiritualistic standpoint, I eat them, and there's some spiritual understanding of me. When I consume them, I consume their knowledge and their power, and it makes me greater. Okay, and I believe it's right. Look. I get my moral grounding from my religion, Islam, through the Quran and the Prophet, peace be upon him. That's where I get my moral grounding from. Okay? Not saying that in other isms or schisms there could be some overlap and crossover. May well be.
Definitely with Christianity,
not disputing that, but fundamentally, my benchmark is my religion. My benchmark, my criterion, my filter, my sieve is my religion. Now, is there anything? Are you just like, I window shop and take as I please, or is there?
It's definitely not window shopping. Just in the same way that you study the Quran, and for the Muslims that are not born into it but they convert to it, they make the choice. They read the Quran, they study it, and then they knowingly make the choice that I want to submit myself to this. That is the way I pick and choose. I do pick and choose, but it's not window shopping. It's not as superficial as what that word implies. It is more, it is deeper than that. I have to read a book. I have to understand it. I have to kind of contemplate on what the meaning of the book is in my life, the way I understand it, and the way the people around me interact with one another, and what this idea that I'm learning right now, how would that be kind of put into action.
So the same way as I was saying, those hundreds of thousands within the Levant who have a period of 300 years gradually converted, whereby that region was majority Muslim. They used the same reasoning you just talked about, knowing that under an Islamic state there is the possibility of them, if they were to change their mind,
yes, but they can find
of the apostasy laws maybe being enacted on them, possibly. Not in all cases.
Yeah.
The apostasy laws, I'll be honest, are not always enacted. But what I want to know from you is that, do we use democracy? Do we use liberalism? Do we use communism? Do we use Maoism? What do we use to determine how society should rule themselves, and then to progress from a legalistic standpoint?
So don't you think that? Pose your question and then I'll respond.
So it's just, where does keep confinement?
Yes.
Right? But the thing is, when you say that certain different influences will take you, right? All these influences are affecting you, taking you into different directions.
Yes.
Right? So
Not lost. Not lost.
path changes constantly.
Not constantly. My path can change. I can learn and correct myself, but it doesn't change constantly. No. Because I said there needs to be a study.
You don't have an objective standard.
Of course you have. Of course you grow. Of course you grow to have an objective standard. Of course you do, because there are books, ideas, philosophies that you believe in from day one, and that is your objective standard.
I think this is where the confusion is. So this is the thing. In order to become a Muslim, like the people convert and the things like that, they haven't just converted and said, okay, this is now the standard. What it is they first came to the understanding is does God exist? Is the nature of God true, objectively? The evidences of the Quran, is that from God? Is the prophet a prophet? And once this is clear,
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I think that in itself is wrong. I think that the reason why one should believe in any religion is not because of a god or a higher power. If I were to submit myself to any religion, it would be because of its moral superiority. Not because I would want to submit myself to one higher power and everything that higher power stands for.
that's kind of, the thing is, if it's from God, then it has, in fact, it has moral superiority. That's
my point.
It's from God.
But
God created morality.
that is where you and I kind of separate. Because I do not believe that there is... See, I'm agnostic, as I mentioned earlier. So I believe that there is some sort of higher power, but I don't believe that there is one specific God that I know of and I will follow.
So for me, I believe my objective morality comes from my creator.
Yes.
Okay. My creator's created me.
Yes.
Like whoever it's an old adage, you probably heard of it, I don't know. But whoever manufactures something gives it a manual. Do not immerse in water. Do not leave under sunlight. Do not put it in temperature fluctuations of -10 or anything over 38 degrees Celsius. Whatever. Yeah. Not whatever you knew. I mean, whatever I would say. Like, whatever the parameters are. Yeah.
There are
right.
parameters.
So with God, as a Muslim, with God creating us and Him being all-knowing, understands what basically, very simply, what is good for us and what is bad for us. Now, there may be things whereby we want to understand the wisdom and the reasoning behind it. There could be that situation, or there could be times where I can argue it, and as you said, the analogy I use, the sweet shop, you may agree with me and say, I could do with some of that.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, right.
Since,
but fundamentally, we believe, as a Muslim, this is
objective.
This is intrinsically objective. Intrinsically objective. Okay. So within any system in this earth existing, or maybe in the past, where would you sit, Cleo? Where, in terms of the social contract, where will you sign on to the social contract to say, this system, I'm in agreement with? Where would you? Do you want to put yourself into
a democratic state?
A democratic state, okay. What kind?
State, definitely.
What
So
kind?
a democratic state which advocates for free speech, for free markets, for morality, for rigid familial structures like in Islam. I think that's a good kind of structure.
Okay, so within
A conservative one, definitely.
conservative. Okay. So we
But with aspects of liberalism.
aspects of liberalism. Okay. So how do we, in terms of the moral aspect, I'm just thinking out loud. So if you're talking about democracy and then a moral aspect to do with society, there are times when that democracy, there's a decision process to decide, obviously, what is moralistic, and what is not, and maybe even legislate against what is moralistic and what is immoral. I guess they would use democracy and maybe a parliamentary democracy.
Yes.
Okay, so
Let's go back to when you said that everything comes with a manual, and that this is the manual for Islam. The manual for democracy is the manuals of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle.
interesting.
The Republic, for
Republic,
example,
yeah.
is the perfect manual for democracy.
Yep.
And what that outlines is that the power. So this is a very different kind of idea to follow to
Understood,
religion,
yeah.
because that dictates that the power is within the people.
The people.
So they are the ones.
The power of, what was the saying again? The power of the people for the people, or something.
Yes, exactly. The power of the people
for the people. Okay.
Exactly. And that what that dictates is that the people
Choose.
So the people will choose what their morals will be.
All right, I got a thought experiment for you.
Okay. Yes.
Just a thought experiment. I want to be the ruler of this system that.
There is no ruler.
Oh no.
In a democratic state, there is no ruler.
Oh, so you're harking back to.
In a democratic state, there is no.
Are you talking
ruler.
about Aristotle and?
I'm not talking about ancient Greece in specific.
Okay, sorry,
Any
sorry.
democratic state.
There is always a
there is
leader.
no ruler.
Sorry,
There
president,
is a-
prime
no,
minister,
there is a
elected,
representative.
I was just trying to find the word.
Yes.
Sorry.
A representative.
I
That's what's
want
important. Because that's what separates democracy from autocracy and tyranny.
No problem. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree from that perspective. What you're saying, representative is more of an appropriate term to use.
Yeah.
I want to be the representative of that particular society.
Okay.
So to enlist democracy, as I understand how it works today, I'll be very quick, is that I will produce. So we have the Quran, the translation of the Quran in English. I will have something else. I will have a manifesto. And within the manifesto, I would place everything I envisage to enact if you elect me as your representative.
Yes.
In here is a better health system, is looking after our elderly better, looking after our children better, and all that stuff.
I understand where you're getting to.
More traffic lights, too many car accidents,
Yes.
more traffic lights, more police on the
I understand
ground.
where you're getting to. Okay, so you're forming all these different laws, manifestos.
But I have a particular law to be, and please excuse me to be so crude. I have a law whereby two sane consenting adults can choose to do things where two consenting sane adults, under supervision of psychiatrists, medical professionals, and representatives of the law, namely a judge, a magistrate,
Yes.
where it's agreed upon that one consenting adult gives the other adult, under the supervision, to do things to that adult once they pass away and physically die, where they can gain ownership of their body, the deceased's body, to do whatever they want to do with it.
Yes.
They could pet it, they could
I understand,
put it
I
on a
understand.
chair,
Yeah,
or they could do other things with it.
I
Other
understand what you're
fetishes.
getting to.
And this is in my manifesto.
Yes.
And I propagate it, and the majority say, yes, we want you, we choose you to be our representative, and by default to enact my entire manifesto, including that.
Including that.
More traffic lights, more police, more money in the NHS.
And then that rule that you
And that rule. And then when I enter, it's passed. Legislation is passed. So using your paradigm, your mechanism, This is now allowed.
Yes.
Do you have any objections to it?
I'll tell you what. I'm not saying that this is ideal and utopic. I never said that. But I did say that this is what you asked is for a framework that fits best what my world would be in. My kind of world I would want to, social contract I would like to do.
Yes. So is it acceptable?
And it would be that. And I think that that is better than any other social.
Okay, so let me ask you two questions. Do you believe that that particular piece of legislation is morally okay?
It's not.
Okay. Do you believe that even though you disagree with it morally, the person, through the mechanism it's now been enacted, do you believe that they have the right to partake in that action?
They have the right to do that.
To partake in that action.
Because the social contract allows them to do so. But I don't think it's moral.
No problem. Okay. So they have the right to do it, but you say, from your personal opinion, you believe it's immoral.
Just like in Islam, there's things that the Quran says that are moral that I would think are immoral as well.
That's my point.
Yes.
So
I saw you were coming to this.
So what I'm trying to get at is that, with all due respect, someone can point the finger at me and talk about apostasy laws, and to use something out of the Bible for argument's sake, and say, you've got a twig in your eye, got a twig in my eye, yeah? I believe with what you've just said, even though you've said morally you disagree with it, but using the system which you think is best, they have the right to do so. I believe these certain people have an Amazon in their eye.
But what you're doing now
Let me finish.
is you're okay, I'll let you finish.
So I think grotesque things can happen. I think more grotesque than apostasy laws, whereby someone would say, do you know what? It could even get worse. That second person could be of a younger age, but because the parents have authority under the rule of law under that younger person, if that younger person was to die, the parents could give John Smith the legal right to do whatever they want with their dead child's body.
Yes.
Because that premise that we're using is open to be used and interpreted to do many things, many grotesque things. So I think from a moralistic standpoint, your ideology and your methodology is immoral. Because that particular aspect opens the door to the Holocaust, to what Stalin did, killing 20 million of his citizens, to what Chairman Mao did, to what the Cambodian massacres did in Cambodia, the Khmer Rouge. It's massive.
We can agree that everything you just mentioned is completely immoral and false in history. But that doesn't prove that democracy is a lesser social contract than Islam is. And I'll tell you why. Yes, as you correctly outlined, there are aspects of democracy which of a democratic state, like which would pass laws which I would not want to adhere to, which I would not want to follow, as there are in Islam. But I have the choice to not partake in that. Whereas in Islam, you don't. I do have the choice in a democracy to say, you know what, I choose not to do that. There is a law that says that you have to do that. But in democracy, you can say, I choose not to.
But the thing is this.
Whereas in Islam, you can't.
But the difference is this.
You have the fear of a knife coming down
okay,
your neck.
go ahead. Sorry, I apologize.
It's just one question I want to ask. I can see you're kind of going back.
Can you come here, because you're not on the mic, is it okay?
Yeah.
Come through. Stand where I'm standing. There you are.
Okay. You've been going back and forth on this. So
I'm in the middle. Sorry.
Just one
Clear.
fundamental question I just wanted to ask. I get what you're saying in terms of democracy. I mean, you believe that is a much better system. But as you've shown, there is a weakness in that, right?
There's a weakness in every system, though.
Yeah.
That's why I don't believe in any system.
Okay.
But with all due respect,
So
John is not going to sleep with Sarah's child's dead body.
I think one thing.
Whilst under your premise, that will happen.
There is no democracy that passes laws such as that.
And the Holocaust can be legislated.
But there
The Rwanda genocide can be legislated because what you're
The
saying is.
Holocaust. Let's take that as an example. Was the Holocaust an example of hypocrisy?
I agree.
That was hypocrisy.
I agree. I'm going to leave the conversation.
No, I just want to ask one question. I'm going to leave the question to you.
In society, if the representative who wants to be, they elect themselves as a potential representative, okay, uses that system because you didn't put enough, I believe you didn't put enough confinement. Remember we talked about confinement, that the Quran is too narrow. Your system lacks that narrowness. No, let me finish. So, let me finish. Lacks that freedom. So much so that necrophilia can take place and all sorts can take place. Because as long as...
Is there any democratic state which
Let me finish. But that's what I meant. You left too much freedom. There was a lack of narrowness. There was a
Yeah, inshallah, go ahead. Nice to meet you, man.
I agree. But using your premise, with such lack of narrowness and confinement, because you said that the Quran is too narrow, because you went the complete, in your eyes, the complete opposite and said all freedom, yet no confines, leads to necrophilia. Because it does, because if society chooses at any given point in time what is good with no confines, then everything's open.
How can you say that there's no confines when law is confines? Why are there thousands and hundreds of laws about necrophilia, about, for example,
But that's
all
just
the
a
death
different time, right?
policies?
I agree.
What has to happen to a body after death? How can one be cremated? How can one be buried?
Clear. We have these laws because we deem them to be, for whatever reason, immoral, not right. But if what I'm saying is, using your analogy, if society changed its mind and fluctuated, whereby the system was your system was used, it can then be enacted as law and by default as moral. If the morality of society changes, then that's reflected in the laws, and then the laws will change, and therefore it's no longer immoral, it's no longer a taboo. So when you say, you as a Muslim, with respect, you're confined by the Quran, you think you're not confined, but in reality you are confined. What you're confined to is what society at any given point in time deems to be moral or immoral. Therefore, necrophilia can be looked upon as being moral.
That is not it. Because
I'm gonna go.
I'm good.
I'm just going to ask one question.
Let me just respond to that. Let me just respond before
I need to
you
go.
leave.
Oh, you need
One
to go.
last response. So, when you asked me about my kind of social contract, one of the words I used was conservative. And what that means is that conservative means conserving old values.
Yes.
And that means that you cannot sway, just like what you kind of implied just now, that morality can sway at any moment, going back and forth between, this being okay and then changing the law and then changing the law again. If this democracy is a conservative democracy, like what I explained, morals and laws cannot change as easily as that. Morals and laws have to be debated. They have to be contested.
But they can be changed, right?
This is what happens at the higher courts.
But what's the foundation? You're saying conservatism.
Conservative
Of what?
values. There are certain values.
Christian Judaic.
Well, the
Hindu?
conservative system is based on a Christian system. Most conservatives tend to be Christians, so they adhere to certain Christian values. But I would not fully, subscribe to any kind of sect of Christianity. But I would say that those conservative values are useful in a democratic state.
As an agnostic.
As an agnostic.
So me as a Muslim, can I use my Quran as a conservative anchor in my democratic state? As you use the Christian?
No.
Why?
Because the
Elements.
Quran, because the Quran is too.
It's not open to.
It's not. I didn't say it's not open
So
to.
you either take it all or leave it.
Exactly.
Whilst with Christianity, you can, like a sweet shop, pick and choose.
No.
What then?
Christianity, you cannot pick and choose. But Christianity has ingrained itself in political systems in a way that Islam hasn't.
I'll tell you why. Great.
Yes.
I agree with you, and I'll tell you why. Generally, this is generalist term, okay, or point. I believe why today within the West, one of the reasons why we've arrived at this point is this. with the schism within Christianity, meaning between the Catholics and the Protestants, and all the people burned at the stake, and Galileo being killed because he said the world was round and not flat, and then a third of Germany's population dying through the wars between Catholics and Protestants, and all of this isms and schisms and death and killing.
Yes.
Okay, Europe came to the point whereby they decided that, generally speaking, we need to put the Christianity on the shelf. And we're going to use the Renaissance and the Enlightenment and everything that came out of that to form. Let me finish.
Yes.
To form shelf in a window, and I'm going to take what I believe is correct and I can use.
That's
let
not
me
how it
finish.
is
Let me
always.
finish.
That is
A watered down version. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to formulate this system. We're going to look at, as you said, Aristotle and others. We're going to look at the ancient Greeks and use a form of democracy. Not their form, because women couldn't partake in democracy, nor could slaves. And it took women, the
outsiders.
and the suffragettes here up until 100 years ago. They could, and then even it wasn't all of them; it was just some women. So there was a gradual emancipation. No problem. Okay, and you could say that emancipation was tied to the First and then the Second World War, when women had to, by necessity, enter the workforce and enter education, which then emancipated them.
But not by necessity. That is something that they fought for.
I'm digressing. I'm digressing. But what I'm saying is, so they thought that we need to put Christianity, in terms of it ruling us, to the side, lean on it, but not use it as our foundation. We're not going to use it as our total foundation. We're going to lean on it, and then what we're going to do, we're going to do certain things. We can either do as the French did and go totally crazy secular, where the guillotine was used so much it was red hot, like literally red hot.
Yes.
It was used so much. To maybe how the Brits did it, whereby technically it's a Christian country. We have bishops in the House of Lords, the second chamber.
Yes, of course.
Okay, and then we have the head of state, who's the head of English church. But then we discuss and see, what is good for us at any point of time. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that there was so much bloodshed in Europe that they felt to negate or lessen the bloodshed, we have to put our Christianity almost to the side, because it nearly destroyed us from a third of the population in Germany and the other massacres that were held between the Catholics and the Protestants. That led to the system of government we have today. The question is, from an Islamic paradigm, look at the Muslim majority lands, let's contrast that. That did not happen. You can argue that the reason why we have democracies or secular states like in Turkey is either out of the First World War or out of colonialism. It wasn't out of Muslim fighting Muslim, that we're killing each other so much that we need to put the Quran to the side, pick and choose, fundamentally put it to the side, and use other systems.
Democracy is not a product of Christianity. Democracy came long before Christianity.
I know, that's what I'm not arguing. What I'm saying is...
First, can I remind you that I'm not here to support and to back and to make an argument for Christianity. I am an agnostic, but I will not hate on Christianity either. I can't say that it's been put on the shelf and it's been disregarded. There are countries that can strongly withhold Christian morals,
yes,
and there are Christian social contracts,
yes,
and Christian communities that uphold Christianity,
yes,
just in the same way that Islamic states do with Islam.
No.
They do.
No,
they don't implement it to this.
They do, but
no, they don't. I'm sorry, but they don't.
Not the big Western
Could you
countries.
give me a country?
Countries.
Could you give me a country?
Hungary,
a lot of
Slovenia,
a lot of the Orthodox countries, a lot of the Eastern European countries.
Okay, so Greece, Romania. So I'm not going to go into detail. Bulgaria. I'm not going to go into detail, but with all due respect, a lot of them, they do have certain aspects. I agree with you, and I understand your aspect of conservatism and where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. But what I'm saying is, the systems, generally speaking, being used today in Europe, and the reason why they're being used is because of the amount of bloodshed that was caused through the Reformation. That in a major part played the part into why we have the systems of governance we have today in Europe. No problem. Some say,
Don't you think that that is a good thing?
some say no abortion,
Don't you think that that
or
is a
with,
good
or
thing?
with abortion.
Why
What do you mean?
are you here not living in an Islamic state?
I was born here. Social contract.
So why would you rather be there if you
In where?
in any Islamic state?
Name me one.
The United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia.
What did the Emirates do?
What did the Emirates?
Why as a Muslim should I live in the Emirates?
Because that is an Islamic state. That is
Is it?
where you mostly you can perfectly fit in terms of the.
I perfectly fit in here.
It's not an
But
Islamic.
you don't agree to the social contract.
There's something you're not understanding. You could be a Muslim anywhere.
But you don't agree with the social
can-
contract, do you?
I can see it next to a communist British person.
We all can, yes.
British person who operates within the system, who might not agree with many things that are going on, who are perfectly British, but at the same time they don't undermine the system like a fifth collar, where
I
they
see.
like they wanna almost like the 1st of January when Trump lost the
Yes,
election.
yes, of course.
Something to that effect. No. You can be within a system whereby you can abide by your religious values and get along fine. So remember what I said initially. We're going to have a theoretical.
Let me remind you of what I said, actually. Let me remind you of what I said. So you have been condemning, for our conversation, you have been condemning the kind of the formation of the democratic state coming out of the Reformation and out of kind of the putting Christianity on the shelf and this whole argument that you created. You've condemned that, but you've still chosen to live by it. Because regardless of the fact that you are a Muslim, you still choose to live in this country and follow the rules of this country and live in it, rather than going back to an Islamic country and properly don't you have to pay your tax? What is the tax called?
Zakat.
Do you have to pay that here?
Yes.
Do you pay that here?
Okay, yeah.
We're conflating many things.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking
Let
about
me-
a lot of things, but instead of
Let me iron this out.
yeah.
It was a comment that you made which led me then to describe why the West is using the system that it is.
Yes.
Right. So that's why I went into it. Okay. You said that many countries still use Christian values.
Of course.
Some do, but I believe it's watered down to what it was before. And the reason why it was watered down to what it was to the amount, the reason why it was watered down to the amount it was before, because the equivocation you used was Islam in the Muslim land, very quite crude. Islam in the Muslim land, and Christianity in the Christian land, and how they were somewhat.
Let me correct you
Somewhat
very quick.
synonymous.
Let me just correct you very
Oh,
quick.
they were-
I don't like this assumption that Christianity has completely, watered down in the West. Because we can say that because Muslim states are much more visible, in a sense. Muslim states are much more visible because they are whole countries. But Christian confines still exist. There are certain regions within countries. Take Vatican City. Do you know about Mount Athos? So there's a region in northern Greece which is driven by religious law. It has no
Autonomy.
religious autonomy. Like it's autonomous to the Greek state, and it is just men. No women are allowed to enter this region, and they're only strictly Greek Orthodox monks living in that confine, waking up, praying multiple times a
Is that
day.
okay?
Of course, that's okay.
So if I want to have an Islamic enclave in Essex, is that all right?
That is all right, but you have to be following the laws
But they're
of
not.
the country.
But they're not.
They're not. But
They're discriminating against women. So how's that following the law of the equality law?
they've been there before the Hellenic Republic.
It doesn't matter.
It does.
It's the modern
Of
state of
course it
Turkey
does.
founded in 1918 or whenever it was, after the First World War.
No.
Yes.
They were
There's
there.
a constitution in Greece.
They
So-
were there
No, see, the thing is,
before the Hellenic Republic
Cleo.
was founded, and therefore they have a right to that land.
Cleo.
They have a right to live the way
no
they
problem.
do in that land.
No problem. Cleo, the thing is this. Yeah. You're very partial and exceptional when it comes to Christianity. Okay, but when I do the same thing with Islam, you're like, no,
I don't say
doesn't work.
I don't disagree with you.
So I'm gonna use another hypothetical.
Have there been Islamic enclaves in the UK historically?
I'm gonna use another hypothetical. The thing is this: Greece is a modern nation state.
It is.
Okay, they have a constitution and they have laws.
They do.
Okay, I'm fairly 99.999% laws are equality between the sexes.
They are.
I'm sure, but as you said, they've given a situation where they've allowed these particular peoples in this particular mountain,
The monks in Mount
thank you, to have laws which differ from the nation state of Turkey in their constitution.
This has nothing to do with Turkey. Let's exclude
Greece,
Turkey.
I mean Greece.
Yes.
I misspoke.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know the friction between the Greeks
That is
and
very
Turkey.
dangerous.
No, let's not go there.
You just
But
called Greece
Turkey, I know. Once upon a time was Turkey. But
Greece was never Turkey.
No, it was under Ottoman rule.
Greece was never
I know,
Turkey.
it was Ottoman rule. But what I'm saying is this. Hypothetically, if there was the same situation in England,
If that came with England, if that was
if using your paradigm, I want to be your representative. Here's my manifesto.
Yes.
We're going to have an election.
Yes.
But by the way, I want these Muslims to have an autonomous region in Romford, Essex. Is that okay? And it's voted in and agreed upon by the majority of the population using your paradigm?
What does this mean then? What does this exactly mean?
Exactly the same as those Greek monks in that mountain.
No, because they
exactly the same.
They don't have the lineage.
Be consistent.
They don't have the
But
lineage.
be consistent.
I am.
You're not.
I'm being consistent because what we're talking about in
You're
Mount
not
Athos,
being consistent.
What we're talking about in Mount Athos is that they have the lineage claim to the land. They have lineage.
Were they always there?
Yes, they were.
Since when?
I'm not certain, to be honest. But they
Definitely
were
not
always
before
there.
Christ.
No,
No. So there was a point where they were not there, and then they were there.
But did anyone
Okay.
else have claim to that
Okay.
land?
Okay.
Did
Doesn't-
anyone else have claim to that
What
land
I'm
before
saying
them?
is there was a point they were not there, and there were mechanisms involved when then they became there.
That point,
Okay.
But
Now,
that point where they were
Chloe,
not there,
Cleo,
Cleo, maybe no
sorry.
one had claim to that
Cleo, using your own predefined parameters and your own mechanism. If I, as a representative, said, "Hey, I want to represent you. Here's my manifesto," as
Yes,
said
yes,
before,
I understand what
and
you're
within that, as with that mountain, in terms of the monks, once upon a time they were not there, and then through certain conditions they became there. Same situation. They are not there in Romford, Essex, but using your paradigm, manifesto. I want to be representative, majority,
Were
and
they
in
there
there.
before the Hellenic
But
Republic?
using
Yes,
your
they
wrong,
were.
you don't want to answer. He doesn't want to answer.
Were they there before
Cleo,
the Hellenic Republic?
have you heard of
Yes.
Peugeot? No, Renault.
Yes, of course.
They've got a car called the Clio.
I know.
I suggest you jump in it, put it on, and drive off because you're not answering my question.
I will
Just
do that.
vacate the situation.
Listen. Let me talk to you about this. This is consistency. This is exact consistency.
Go
Because you tried to say that I am being inconsistent in this argument. But what the argument is that I subscribe to conservative laws, a democratic framework, a democratic police. But those monks and any kind of religious kind of conclave has the right to be there if it's been there before the democratic framework came into place. That is what I'm saying.
Who chose that?
I'll tell you. So going back.
Who chose that?
What do you mean who chose
Who
that?
gave them the allowance to continue?
They took it themselves. Who gave them the allowance to continue?
The government allowed them to continue.
But it is its own region. It's in its own right.
The government allowed them to continue in the way they are now. It was an allowance. No, this is the one. It was a dispensation given by the government. They didn't say, "Sorry, Greek government."
They don't have the right to do that.
But it was the government giving them
Do you
this.
see? By the way, do you see how this links to?
Yeah,
Do you see
obviously.
how this links to Israel and Palestine?
Oh, please don't.
Do you see how this links to Israel and Palestine?
Cleo,
Yes.
don't go there.
Why not?
Because that's more complex. And 38,000 people have died.
And I stand with the Palestinians. I do. that is what
And
I'm saying.
I don't want to personally go there.
Okay, we're not going to go there. But what I'm trying to
But-
say to you is that
Go
any
ahead.
religious conclave has the right to be there.
I'm
not going to take.
Did I say
away
they
from
don't
you.
have a right to be there? You're putting arguments and words in my mouth. I didn't say that. What I'm
You're
saying.
assuming.
No,
You're assuming that under a democratic
I never said
framework,
that.
We should take that away from them.
No, I never said that as well. You're killing me softly. Softly, you're killing me.
Speaker's cornering you.
Your
That's
speaker's
what I'm
cornering me.
doing.
Now, what I'm saying is, again, and we'll end it on this. That enclave, there was a time when they didn't exist, and they came into existence. Right? They were there, ancient, granted. Wherever it is, they were ancient. Then you had the nation state of Greece.
Yes.
When they gained their independence from the Ottoman Empire,
Yes.
and it was created,
Yes.
the Greek government, probably through Parliament,
Republic.
the Hellenic Republic, thank you. Maybe through Parliament, maybe an edict through the king at the time, because there was a monarchy early days,
course there was.
or through the president, or the prime minister, whatever mechanism, the executive or the legislative body or whoever it was, granted those monks on that mount permission to continue the way they continued
Yes.
prior.
To continue the way they did. Yes.
So they were given permission to do so. Yes?
Yes.
I, through your system, want to be your representative. Here's my manifesto. We're going to have an enclave in Romford. And
Has it already existed? Is it pre-existing? That's where you are being inconsistent there. Because if you want to relate this argument to the one
I understand your
Mount
point.
Athos,
I understand your point,
Yes.
but let me ask you this question then. If the government, whoever it was, if the government told those monks on that mount, in that monastery, we don't give you permission, disband. Disband. They would have disbanded.
they would have disbanded.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the point is not whether they were there, when, or whatever, it's whether the government gave them permission. That's what it comes down to. But that's what it comes down to, whether they give them permission or not. The buck lies with the government. Am I right or wrong?
It does. It does.
Okay, so to be consistent. Let me finish. Let me finish. No, it doesn't. You've just said
It has to be
it.
pre-existing.
Right. So I'm going to end the conversation because I believe, you know what I'm getting at, and it comes down to the government. But like I said,
But are they pre-existing?
it doesn't matter because it comes down to the government whether they give permission, pre-existing or non-pre-existing, whether they give permission or not.
Okay. Thank you for this conversation.
Thank you.
We'll talk again.
You're welcome. Don't forget a copy.
We have so many of them. I wanted it for an argument. His point is just being that
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. So that was an interesting conversation. I've lost count of. I think she knew where I was going. In that last argument, it comes down to the government giving permission. What she couldn't bring herself to say is that using her methodology, if a representative within his or her manifesto said, amongst other political policies, that we will have an Islamic, not saying I'm propagating it, just a theoretical discussion, that we will have an Islamic enclave in Romford, Essex, that it's not the same as the Orthodox ministry and enclave given precedence to exist in Greece. And again, this is all theoretical. And as Muslims, as I said, we're more than capable of living in this country, the United Kingdom, being citizens, participating in society fully. And it's as simple as that. Assalamu alaikum.